Okay, I'm going to get started this morning by just welcoming all of you guys. Sawadee Kap, Sawadee Kap. Welcome to Wat Tung Yu. Nice to see all of you guys this morning. Welcome to everyone here at the temple, and welcome to all of you guys that are joining us online as well. This is our group learning program where on Sundays and Wednesdays I get together with students and help them build a foundation in the teachings of the Buddha in order to progress towards enlightenment. Enlightenment is where the mind is peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. You no longer experience any discontent feelings. So by the time you train your mind to get to the enlightened mental state, you no longer experience any anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, boredom, loneliness, shyness, resentment, jealousy. Even the slightest displeasure is eliminated from the enlightened mind. And meditation is important for that. So we start our classes with meditation so that you can learn this important technique to be able to train the mind. There's other things that you would need besides meditation in order to get to enlightenment. So after we meditate on Wednesdays, what I do is I open up to any and all questions that you guys have related to the path to enlightenment. On Sundays, what I do is I go chapter by chapter in a book that we use for this program. The book is called Developing a Life Practice, The Path That Leads to Enlightenment. And over a 7-month period, I go chapter by chapter. Students can read the book, students can come to classes, and this book is available at no cost. You can download it for free from our website. You can take it and go print it if you like. You can get printed versions here by just reimbursing us for the printed cost, or you can order them on Amazon if you'd like, if you have access to Amazon in your country. And then you can attend either here at the temple in Chiang Mai, or you can attend online and gradually learn the teachings to move your mind away from all these discontent feelings. You'll even get to a point where you have focus and concentration, clarity, deep memory. You'll notice your personal, professional relationships will really blossom because you're no longer being bitter and harsh or hostile in your relationships. You'll get to the point where you don't even have a bad mood anymore because you've uprooted the causes and conditions that are producing the bad mood. So the teachings of the Buddha, it's not about believing a bunch of things and then hope something good happens when you die. You're actually learning now. You're reflecting on those teachings now in order to independently verify that they're true. And then you're practicing the teachings in order to uproot certain pollutions that are in the mind. And as you uproot these out of the mind, your mind becomes more peaceful and calm, serene, and content with joy. And you see this happening because you know in situations where you normally get angry and frustrated or annoyed or agitated, and those same situations are occurring as you're training your mind, and you're not experiencing any agitation or annoyance because you've transformed your mind. And this occurs through gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. It's not instantaneous. So I'll start you guys with meditation, and then afterwards we'll open up to any and all questions that you guys have. Even online, you guys are welcome to ask questions as well. So the way that I do meditation is I start with these chants. I'll ease us into meditation with the chanting. You guys are welcome to chant along if you'd like. These chants, it's not a rite or a ritual or a ceremony or worship or anything like this. During the lifetime of the Buddha, he taught orally. He didn't write things down because the technology to write things down hadn't made its way to that part of the world yet. So he taught orally. And then every 2 weeks, his students would come together and they would recite his teachings word for word for word in chanting. And this is the way they would commit the teachings to memory so that then they could go out in the world and they could practice the teachings and transform their mind. So these aren't a rite or ritual or ceremony or worship. And I suspect the Buddha didn't actually even create these chants himself. They were probably created by his students because if you read the English translations, there's a lot of admiration and respect and gratitude for the Buddha. And a Buddha doesn't go around teaching people to chant things to them as a way to honor them and respect them. But if you learned from a teacher who helped you go from that anger and sadness and all those other discontent feelings to this peace and joy, and they didn't want anything from you, they didn't ask anything of you, they didn't expect anything of you, you'd probably have a lot of respect and gratitude for that person too. So his students moving this mind to the enlightened mental state, I suspect that they created this either during his life or after his death. So I do chanting nowadays in order to ease the mind into meditation because it kind of invigorates the mind, gives more awareness to the mind, more awareness of the breath, which are all benefits that you need as you make your way into meditation. And then you get more benefit out of the meditation itself. We have books and podcasts and videos and things like this to remember the teachings, so we don't need to chant in order to remember the teachings. So after the chanting, then I'll provide you some guidance. You'll see we'll actually be meditating together. Those of us here and those of you online will just all be meditating together, and I'll provide some guidance for the meditation that we're going to do. Then there'll be a period of time where I'll just be quiet. I'm sure you're going to hear a car, maybe an occasional bird chirping, or maybe the dogs barking or something like this. But nonetheless, we'll just all be meditating together, and I'll provide you some guidance of what to do when you're in meditation if your mind moves off your breath, because as you hear different sounds, your mind might be distracted and it might choose to go away from the meditation. So I'm going to provide you guidance of how to control your mind and have more discipline of the mind. And we'll be doing that quietly with all of us here and everyone online as well. Then we'll come out of the meditation with some more chanting, and that'll ease us out of the meditation. In terms of your body positioning, the Buddha shared 4 different ways to meditate in terms of your body position, because you can't permanently be in the same position all the time. There's a seated, lying, standing, and walking position. Most people will learn in the seated position when they're first getting started. This is really accessible for people. So if you're either on the floor or in a chair, you can sit where you're comfortable. Most people that are on the floor, they usually like to kind of cross their legs lightly. You're not interested in them being real tight, because then it would inhibit the circulation. So if you just have your legs lightly crossed, this is really nice. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets the hips up in the air, and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, and this will allow the circulation to flow. But it's really up to you. You would like your lower body to be comfortable, not luxurious and not painful. So whatever's comfortable for you. There's not just one set way for everybody to meditate. And then with the hands and the arms, the Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. And if this is comfortable for you, you could use it. But again, it's not about everyone doing it exactly the same way. There's other options too. Some people like to put their palms on their thighs or on their knees. Some people like to put their palms up, or maybe even just rest them comfortably in your lap. So your hands and your arms should be completely relaxed and comfortable, as well as your lower body. Your upper body should be erect with your sternum up and your shoulders back. This will help you to breathe into the lungs and get more air into your lungs. It'll also help your mind to stay alert and attentive during the meditation. Whereas if you were slouched, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. But if you were real rigid, the mind might be overactive or uptight. So you'd like the upper body to be in the middle where it's erect, so that the mind can be attentive and alert during the meditation. So again, I'm going to ease us into meditation with some chanting, and then I'll be back with some guidance. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Bhutang Bhagavanhang Apivateyami Savakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti pisu มหาเขวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิโตอนุเตโรปุริสาดัมมาสติสัตตาตาวัปมนุสนังพุทโธภาควาติ Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath. A nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled. Just a gradual inhale through the nose. Experiencing the full breath. And then when you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then, whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาเขวาพุทธังมหาเขวันหังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาเขวตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเขวโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหาเขวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสคาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาธัมมาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังพุทโธภาควาติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation, I will once again welcome all of you guys, including those guys of you that joined since we started meditating. Welcome to all of you. Welcome to everyone that's here. Welcome to everyone online. Nice to see all of you guys this morning and share the teachings of the Buddha with you. For those of you guys that are here for the first time, I would like to just let you know there's a bathroom in the very back of the room, the last door on the right. You're welcome to use it at any time. There's even a larger bathroom outside the classroom. If you follow the signs in the main temple complex, it'll take you around to the larger bathrooms where you can use the larger bathrooms if you'd like. We even have water here that is provided by our students that you're welcome to help yourself to any water, make yourself comfortable however you like. So again, welcome to all of you guys here and welcome to everyone online as well. This class is to help you guys understand the path to enlightenment and understand the teachings of the Buddha. But on Wednesdays, what I do is I open up to any and all questions that you guys have. Now, some of you, this may be your very first time learning in a temple, so you may not even know where to begin to start asking questions. But what I do is I open up to any and all questions that the students have. And then here at the temple, if you'd like to ask a question, I have these microphones in the white bowl that if you get one of those and you press the gray switch. The light will come on. You just wait a second or so and you put it up to your chin and you'll be able to talk. We'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll also be able to hear you online as well. And then for those of you guys online, if you're in Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, you can put your questions in the comment section. I'll be able to see that. Or in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand and ask any questions that you like. And if you happen to get a mic, you can take it back to your seat, and then someone around you might need it as well, and you can actually share it. But to get us started so that you guys can understand a little bit about the teachings of the Buddha, let me just kind of give you guys a little bit of an introduction to a little bit of what the Buddha taught, just as a kind of an introduction to an introduction kind of thing. So the teachings of the Buddha, as I mentioned at the beginning, it's not about believing a bunch of things. It's not believe, and hope something good happens when you die. Instead, what the Buddha did is he figured out how to train his mind to get to this peaceful, calm, serene, and content mind with joy. We refer to this as enlightenment. It's a mental state that you attain in this life. And this mental state is such that once you train your mind to get to it, it's a permanent mental state. You'll never again experience any anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, boredom, loneliness, shyness, resentment, jealousy, even the slightest displeasure. You've uprooted the causes and conditions that are producing those feelings to occur. That's what the Buddha discovered during his lifetime, is what's causing these feelings to occur so that you can eliminate them from the mind. Oftentimes in the unenlightened state, an individual might blame other people or blame something external for what's causing your feelings. This is very common, that the mind lacks wisdom to understand what's truly causing it to experience these discontent feelings. And because the mind lacks the wisdom of what's causing these discontent feelings, it keeps experiencing them over and over and over and over and over again. So a Buddha discovers these teachings of what it takes to move your mind to this enlightened mental state, and then you're invited to investigate them, examine them. You're invited to reflect on them, to independently verify whether they're true or they're false. And then as you practice his teachings and you're uprooting these causes and conditions that are producing the discontent feelings, you can see for yourself that the mind's becoming more peaceful and more joyful in this life because you're transforming your mind. What the Buddha discovered are these 10 individual fetters. A fetter is a shackle and a chain and a ball that keeps a prisoner trapped in a certain area. This is how they would keep prisoners in a certain area during ancient times, is they would attach a fetter to their ankle. Well, these 10 fetters are also referred to as pollutions or taints or defilements, where the mind is polluted with certain defilements or certain pollutions or taints. And when you learn what these are, and then you understand the tools and techniques to eliminate them and uproot them out of your mind, you'll see that your mind's becoming more peaceful and more joyful. And again, these aren't teachings to believe, but you can see the truth for yourself. So for example, one of the main things that the Buddha discovered is something called craving, desire, attachment. This is the cause of discontent feelings. This is the reason why you experience anger and sadness and frustration and all these other discontent feelings, is that the mind is having this longing and yearning. It's wanting the objects of its affection. It's desiring something. It's having this strong eagerness. It thinks that the next new shiny object waiting around the corner is going to provide some lasting satisfaction. So the mind chases after it. And if you get what you want, you get pleasant feelings like happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, euphoria. But if you don't get what you want, then you experience the painful feelings like sadness, anger, frustration, irritation, annoyance, those other things that you experience like guilt and shame and stress, anxiety, fears, things like this. So essentially, this craving, desire, attachment is what's causing these discontent feelings. So if you've ever been in the mall and you've noticed, oh, new pair of shoes. Yes, new pair of shoes. Oh, I just got to have those. Everything's going to be perfect if I can just get those new pair of shoes. If you went in the store and they had your size and you were able to purchase them, you got excited. But that excitement was temporary. That excitement arose, it changed, and then it faded away. It was impermanent because you were basing your inner feeling on some condition. The condition is, I got this new pair of shoes, or this new phone, or this new video game, or new pair of clothes, new boyfriend, new girlfriend, new job. You might have got really excited about those things that you got. But then at some point, your mind transitioned back to the sadness or the anger, the frustration or agitation or some other feeling. Or if you wake up in the morning and you see it's sunny outside, you might get so excited. Yay, I'm so excited. It's sunny outside. We can go hiking. Yes, I'm going to go outside and play. This is going to be so fun. But then you go take a shower and you come out and you see that it's raining. And now you get sad or frustrated. Because the mind formed its inner feeling based on some condition, like the sun, and the sun is impermanent, then that means your feeling of happiness is impermanent too. As soon as the sun changes, then your mind changes to sadness, anger, frustration, or some other conditioned feeling. These are called conditioned feelings, that you're basing your inner feelings on some condition. You're not a bad person. You haven't done anything wrong. This is what every unenlightened mind does, and everybody that's born is unenlightened. So their mind lacks wisdom to understand what's truly causing these discontent feelings. So what we will tend to do in the unenlightened state is we will blame other people for the feelings that you experience. So when you get angered or frustrated or agitated, you might push people away out of your life. Or you might push a situation out of your life, thinking that this is going to solve the problem. But it doesn't solve the problem because it's only a matter of time before you become irritated or annoyed about something else. If that was the true problem and you had solved it by pushing that person away, then you wouldn't get irritated or annoyed about anything else. But because that's not the true problem and you haven't solved the problem, that's why you still get angry or irritated or annoyed, because pushing someone away or pushing a situation away isn't going to solve the problem, because the problem is actually inside one's own mind. Or the second thing that the unenlightened mind will do when it lacks wisdom is you might be bitter and harsh and hostile towards people, almost feeling justified in your anger. And now the mind is trying to almost fear this other person into doing things your way. Because the unenlightened mind thinks if I can just get things done my way, then it'll be perfect. I'll get those pleasant feelings. But that doesn't work either, because when you're bitter, harsh, and hostile with people, they choose to leave out of your life for one reason or another. Or the third thing that you might do when you misunderstand that the problem is internal, that it's not external, is you might put your expectations on somebody. You might try to control them or force them to do things your way. And in this situation, the number of people you can spend time with becomes fewer and fewer and fewer and fewer. And you might notice that as your expectations grow of the things that you want other people to do, it's only a matter of time before you disagree with something that people are doing around you. And now you'll feel like you want to push them away, like you're bitter, harsh, and hostile towards them, or you might put your expectations on them. And people might be doing this with you as well. And this is just going to keep you stuck in this constant cycle of continuing to experience discontentedness over and over and over again. So the Buddha is helping you to be able to see this, that the mind is holding on, that it's wanting things a certain way. And if you get what you want, you get pleasant feelings. And if you don't get what you want, you get painful feelings. So if it's sunny and that's what you want, then you'll be happy when it's sunny. But if it's raining and that's not what you want, then you'll get those painful feelings like sad, anger, or frustrated. By the time somebody trains their mind to get to enlightenment, their mind's not going up and down like this, the way that the unenlightened mind does. Their mind is beyond that. They're experiencing permanent happiness or permanent joy. This is unconditioned happiness or unconditioned joy, where in the unenlightened state, you're forming your inner feelings based on some condition, and that condition can be the sun, it can be your bank account. If your bank account is this balance, you'll be happy, but if it goes down to here, you'll be sad. Or if your mom or dad do this, you'll be happy, but if they do this over here, you'll be sad or frustrated, or some other thing like this, right? Coworkers, employees, bosses, neighbors, family members. The mind is wanting things to be a certain way. And when you get that, you get pleasant feelings, but they're only temporary because they're conditioned feelings. They're based on your cravings. But then when you don't get what you want, you'll get those painful feelings. So an enlightened mind is beyond all of this. They've trained their mind to no longer form conditioned feelings. That now, if an enlightened being wake up, before they even saw that it's sunny outside, they're already joyful. They're already happy because they have unconditioned happiness. There doesn't need to be any condition met in order for there to be happiness and joy. They've fully purified the mind, where the mind is just always experiencing joy and happiness and peace. And now if they go take a shower and they come out and it's raining, okay, it's raining, so I guess I'll stay home and read a book, or I'll go to the mall. Maybe I'll go watch a movie. Maybe I'll invite some friends over in order to have some food. But in that unenlightened state, the mind is craving to go hiking and so excited to go outside that it can only be happy if that condition is met. And now when it's raining and they can't go outside, that's where they'll be frustrated or agitated or annoyed. So you can transcend all of these discontent feelings. You can eliminate them. Oftentimes in the unenlightened state, we think that as a human being that it's normal to feel angry and sad and frustrated. We blame it on somebody else. And now we find it very difficult to live harmoniously in the world with others. But you can eradicate all of that through training of your mind. This meditation that we just did is one of the primary trainings we use in order to eliminate craving, desire, attachment. So when your mind is on the breath and you're focused on the breath, what you're doing is you're training the mind to have awareness. This is called mindfulness, that you're aware of what's going on in the mind. And then when the mind moves off the breath and you bring it back, you're helping the mind to develop some concentration and some clarity, some focus, and train the mind to let go of this craving, desire, attachment, this longing, this yearning. If during the meditation you had a bombardment of thoughts and it was lots of rapid thoughts, that's very normal when you're first starting to meditate. You're not bad at meditation. You haven't done anything wrong. You might have just had a bunch of rapid thoughts. Or you might have had a thought and you indulge in that thought for a period of time, and then you were like, oh yeah, that's right, I'm meditating, let me bring my mind back to the breath, and you brought your mind back to the breath. Perhaps the goal of this meditation isn't to eliminate your thoughts. Sometimes people think that when they hear the guidance. You're going to have thoughts during meditation. Even an enlightened being will have thoughts, but the difference is in the unenlightened state, you'll either have a bombardment of thoughts or you'll indulge in a thought for a period of time before you realize that, oh yeah, that's right, I'm meditating, let me bring my mind back. In the enlightened mental state, you'll have a thought, but you'll notice it right away and you'll cut it off and bring the mind back to the breath. And then there'll be this period of time of peace and joy in the mind. And then the mind will have this thought and then you'll bring the mind back to the breath. But the mind is still experiencing peace and joy, but there's an occasional thought in the enlightened mind. So the goal isn't to eliminate your thoughts, but to develop the wholesome quality of mindfulness or awareness of mind, to develop the wholesome quality of concentration or focus or clarity, and then to be able to easily let things go. And this is really key during your life to have these qualities, because in the unenlightened state, most people go around the world being unaware of what's going on in your own mind. You might just be kind of tromping through the world, not really understanding what's happening within your own mind. So by understanding what's going on in your own mind and having this concentration in the ability to easily let go, now in daily life, when you're out and about in the world and you notice the anger or the frustration or the sadness or something else starting to arise, you can cut that off and let it go. So if you're training in meditation like this, 2 or 3 times a day is what we build up to, 30 minutes or more. It takes about 6 months, a year, even 2 years to build up to that kind of frequency. You might start at 1 session for 5 minutes or 2 sessions for 10 minutes. Wherever you start is where you start, but you would like to gradually build up to 2 or 3 sessions per day for 30 minutes or more. And that's going to mean that you might need to clear some unbeneficial things out of your life. You might be doing certain things that are unbeneficial. And if you clear those things out of your life, you'll have more time to actually dedicate to training your mind. Because just like you clean this body every day, you need to clean your mind every day. It's the same thing. And if you aren't attending to your mind, then that means the mind can become dirty or polluted. And that's how an individual is born into the world. There's a certain amount of pollution that's in the mind, but you can purify that. And meditation is one of the ways to do that. So in meditation, we're training the mind to cut off everything and anything that comes up, because you're trying to get the mind to have that mindfulness and concentration and the ability to easily let go. So you can have focus and concentration, and you can have control and discipline of the mind. But then in daily life, you're only cutting off anything that's unwholesome that's coming up. If you have a wholesome thought, like maybe you'd like to take your mom out to breakfast, or you'd like to call up your sister and see how she's doing, go for it, right? This is a wholesome thing. It's going to lead to wholesome results. But if you have an unwholesome thought that comes up, like maybe frustration is bubbling up, or anger, or stress, or anxiety, or maybe you feel like you want to punch someone in the face, or you want to argue with somebody and be bitter and harsh and hostile, you can cut that off and let it go. If you've been training your mind regularly, you'll be able to do that. Right now, if this is your first time meditating, you're not going to be able to get that result immediately. It takes gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. So if you in daily life are meditating, and then in daily life you're cutting off and letting go of anything that's coming up, eventually you'll purify your mind with that. But also there's other teachings that you need too, that you can ultimately purify the mind where there is no frustration that comes up. There is no anger. It's physically impossible for an enlightened being to get angry about anything at all. The mind just isn't possible because you've eliminated and eradicated the causes and conditions that are producing the anger, that are producing the stress and the anxiety and all these other feelings. So this is a bit about the teachings of the Buddha. And by the way, this meditation we just did is called Breathing Mindfulness Meditation. So you're breathing, you're developing mindfulness, you're developing concentration, you're training the mind to let go, cultivating concentration and clarity of mind, the discipline and the control to eliminate the craving, the longing, the yearning. So this is just a little bit about the teachings of the Buddha, just to kind of help those of you guys that maybe haven't been exposed to the teachings before. Now, some of you guys have been studying with me for a little bit, and maybe you have some questions based on your practice. Maybe some of you guys, this is your very first time learning a little bit about the teachings of the Buddha. Maybe you have various questions about various things you're seeing around the world about the teachings of the Buddha. So this is a good time to ask any and all questions that you like. So again, here at the temple, if you could use the microphones, and those of you guys online, you could put your questions in the Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or in Zoom, you can raise your hand electronically. So does anybody have any questions here that you would like to ask? Okay, looks like Rachel online has some questions. Go ahead, Rachel.
Hi, David. Good morning.
Good morning.
My question is, for the daily chants you used, is the complete version available online? Because I took a picture at the temple of the daily chant, but I think it's only the first part or the beginning part.
Yes, if you go to our website, buddhadailywisdom.com, there's a link that says free books, and all the way towards the bottom, there's a section for free resources, and you'll see the daily chants there, and you can print it out front and back. It's a PDF file, and that way you'll have the Pali, you'll have the English, and you can use it in your meditation sessions, and eventually you'll get to the point where you memorize it, but it takes some time to do that. You can also find it in the first book under Volume 1, Chapter 11, you'll find it there. It has the same thing, the Pali and the English. And then if you'd like, you can use our YouTube channel and or our podcast where I've done the chanting. There's a video and or an audio of the podcast where it's just the chanting and only the chanting. Some people like to kind of listen to that while they're chanting, so they have somebody chanting along with them and they can hear it regularly to be able to develop their practice. And then slowly but surely, you'll end up phasing those things out because you'll just be able to do it on your own.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome. All right, Steve, you have a question?
Thank you, David. So in the breathing mindfulness meditation, what you were just teaching just then, that when we get this discontentedness thoughts comes on, we can let it go, right, and go back to the breath and go back to the breath. Mm-hmm. So we're not analysing, wow, why did I do that? But then in day-to-day life, situations will come up all the time that the situation from yesterday might come up where I remember my interaction with that person, and deep down I might know that that's causing discontent. Mm-hmm. Either some guilt from what I did, how I interacted with that person, whatever. Mm-hmm. So at that moment, I can do two things. I can immediately sort of go into some breathing mindfulness meditation and let it go, and I will feel a little bit better. But at what point do I sort of look head first into that situation and analyze it? Sure. And think, why do I keep doing this over and over again? And that will cause discontentedness. But at what point do you keep going into that to work out, why do I keep acting like this? And then, as opposed to letting it go, are there any other actions that need to clear up that unwholesome karma or whatever? Do I need to make amends to that person or whatever? Yeah.
Sure. So what you do is, in the moment, when you're noticing the anger, the frustration, any of those discontent feelings that I mentioned, the guilt, the shame, the stress, anxiety, you would like to cut it off and let it go in the moment. And we say cut it off and let it go, but it's not so easy when you're first getting started, right? It's more like cut it off, 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 and eventually you'll be able to let it go. But as your mind becomes more trained, more disciplined with the meditation and in daily life, you'll be able to cut things off and let them go much easier. But eventually you would like to let it go, where your mind is now returning back to the peace and returning back to the quietness, not just in meditation, but in daily life, right? So say you were, let's take an example. Say you're in your car and you're sitting at a red light. Somebody pulls up next to you with some wonderful music and you get all these pleasant feelings based on this music that you like. You would like to cut that off too, because that's a conditioned feeling. But then the next person comes up next to you and they have music that you don't like, and now you get frustrated. And if you have wrong view, you would blame the other person, when in reality it's your own craving that's causing that. It's not the music that's causing you, or the person who's playing the music. They're not the ones who's causing that frustration. It's your own mind that's causing that. So you would like to cut that off and let it go. But then let's just say you get to your destination 30 minutes later, an hour later, what have you, and now you're like, boy, I was really frustrated back there. What was it? You would like to look inward. You would like to start reflecting. This is what we call, remember the class where I taught identifying your own cravings, where we went through a 4-step process. The first step is to cut it off and let it go. The second step is to look inward and reflect. What was my craving, desire, attachment? Oh, I crave rap music. That was heavy metal music. That's what it was. I was craving to hear this rap music, and when I heard heavy metal music, yeah, I don't like that, right? Perhaps I'm just giving an example, right? So now you realize you have a craving for this heavy metal music, and now you would like to go to the third step, which is you're going to need to put your mind in the situation that it finds displeasurable. Because what the unenlightened mind does with a lack of wisdom is it wants to push away this heavy metal music. It doesn't ever want to hear heavy metal music. It always wants to hear rap music, for example, right? So now what you do is you desensitize the mind to this heavy metal music. You start playing it a little bit at home, whether it's for a minute or 30 seconds or one song or 10 minutes. You start playing it every once in a while and train the mind like, hey, you can be peaceful and joyful with this rap music, but you can also be peaceful and joyful with this heavy metal music too. But if you never desensitize the mind, then it's always going to be holding on to this rap music, and it's only going to experience the happiness when it has this rap music. So you would like to put the mind in the situation it doesn't want to be in. And now you just repeat that over and over. So you cut off and let go in the moment, and you'll be able to more easily do that if you've been meditating regularly. Then you look inward through your reflection when your mind's calm and you can see very clearly what is it that the mind was craving, what was it wanting, what was it longing, yearning for. It was craving for something to be permanent. And then you put the mind in the situation that it doesn't want to be in. And then you repeat this over and over and over again until the mind eventually gets to the point where it's let go of that craving and it realizes that rap music isn't permanent, that it can't permanently have rap music. Does that make sense? Yeah. So this is where you can independently reflect on what I'm sharing with you to see that what I'm sharing with you is true. I'm sharing with you that your mind is causing these discontent feelings, that it's your craving, desire, attachment, your longing, your yearning. And if you get what you want, you get pleasant feelings. If you don't get what you want, you get painful feelings. So you can look at a recent situation when you've been angry or frustrated or irritated, and you can look at that situation with fresh eyes, with new wisdom, where in the past, maybe yesterday or last week, you might have been looking for someone to blame. This is what the unenlightened mind will typically do. You might have been looking for someone to blame for that anger or frustration. Now look at that same situation and figure out what was it that your mind was wanting, that because you didn't get what you wanted, you got angry or frustrated. But had you got what you wanted, you would have gotten happy or excited. So you can look at your own life because you've been in life long enough and you've experienced enough anger and sadness and frustration and these other feelings that you can look at what I'm sharing with you and you can see how your mind is causing these feelings itself. So some examples that I give are like, say you had a brand new car and you got all these pleasant feelings with this brand new car. You parked it at a store and then you went inside and you came out and you saw a scratch on your car and you got frustrated. It's not the scratch that's causing your frustration. It's not the person who caused the scratch. It's the mind craving permanence. The mind is longing, yearning, wanting this car to be permanently beautiful, when in reality, you live in an impermanent world. It would be wonderful if nobody ever scratched your car. But that's not the world you live in. You live in an impermanent world where everything around you is impermanent. This car is going to get scratched. The paint's going to fade. The upholstery is going to rip at some point. So sure, we make decisions to try to keep it nice if we can, but understanding impermanence, it's only a matter of time before this car starts to disintegrate and degrade because of impermanence. This is a universal truth. So if your mind's craving for this car to look permanently beautiful, when you get a scratch on it, you'll be frustrated and irritated or annoyed, right? And you would like to maintain your calmness and composure in these situations. It's not the scratch nor the person who caused the scratch that's causing this anger to arise. It's the mind craving permanence and wanting things to be a certain way. Same thing, like say you have someone close to you who dies. Say grandma or grandpa, mom, dad, brothers, sisters, friends start dying. Maybe you've experienced someone close to you dying. It's not the love that's causing you to grieve at their funeral or the sadness that you experience when you get notified of their death. That's not what's causing it. Love is a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. That love isn't what causes the mind to be sad. What's causing it to be sad is your mind is holding on to this person, wanting them to be permanent, when in reality, because they were born, they had to die. They are impermanent. Just like you're impermanent and I'm impermanent, every being in the world is impermanent. We arise, we change, and we fade away. But when the unenlightened mind is craving permanence, there's happiness when grandma and grandpa are alive, or mom or dad or brothers and sisters. But then when you experience this impermanence, the unenlightened mind doesn't like change. It doesn't like impermanence. So now when someone dies, you might experience the sadness or the frustration or the agitation or the annoyance or some other discontent feeling, because the mind's no longer getting what it wants, which is this person to be alive. So every situation that you've ever been in, your entire life, whenever you've been discontent, the mind is actually causing it itself. And one of the beauties about seeing this truth is that because your mind is causing these feelings, you can actually eliminate it. If it's everybody else that's causing you to be angry and frustrated, you got to train 8 billion people to do things your way. And this is really hard to do. This is, I'm sure, exhausting, right? You'd have to have all kinds of training programs. You'd have to have testing. You'd have to have centers all over the world to train people to do things your way. And then if everybody in the world agrees and they do things your way, then you'd be happy. But this is unrealistic, right? You can't do that. So you could train just one mind. And if you train that one mind, you can get to peace and you can get to joy. As long as the mind's craving things to be a certain way, then when you get that, you'll get happy. But when you don't get it, you're going to get sad or angered or frustrated. So you can liberate the mind from this by understanding what the problem is and the cause of that problem. So that's one of the benefits of being able to see that your mind is causing these feelings, is that then you can embrace that. It empowers you to actually eliminate them as you get the wisdom to understand how to do that. And that's what the Buddha does, is shares with you the wisdom of how to eliminate these feelings, so that then your mind can be peaceful and joyful for the rest of your life. Okay, so a little bit more there to add in so that you guys can be able to reflect and independently see the truth for yourself, that your mind is causing these feelings. And you don't need to feel guilty or shameful. You haven't done anything wrong. Every single being that's ever been born has been unenlightened, right? So it's a matter of cultivating wisdom in this life so that you can transcend this and overcome this and get to the point where your mind's peaceful and joyful for the rest of your life. Any other questions? Looks like Edmund has a question.
Yeah, thanks, David. I think I have a tendency to either over-attach or over-identify with things. And it really gets in the way, I feel. And I'm becoming more and more aware of it, almost day by day. Whether that's, I suspect, a result of sitting more frequently in meditation. Mm-hmm. Maybe an example, I've managed to relieve myself of a lot of attachments of stuff and things. You know, coming from London where I lived, I owned my own little apartment and I had my own job and all the trappings of that kind of stuff. I've managed to free myself of a lot of that. You know, I managed to right size it all a bit because I overly identified with being like, you know, a property owner and all that kind of stuff. I'm sort of free of that, but the last thing I think left is me, just my body in a way. And it's getting older and it hurts a lot sometimes, you know. I don't know, maybe a doctor would say, yeah, that's arthritis, or you've got this, or, well, you know, you've got these things going on. And I can kind of get a little bit overthinking, a little bit precious about myself in a way, you know. I've done yoga on and off for 20 or 30 years maybe. But then I started doing yoga again here in Thailand. And once again, I was over-identifying. I became a bit like, oh, Eamon, the yoga guy. And I don't like doing things like that because I turn something into something it isn't. Do you know what I mean? I wasn't looking for an identity. I wasn't looking for yoga to somehow colour my identity, but it does, you know? Mm-hmm. So I kind of, I sort of feel stuck a little bit between, I think the real goal is just to say, yeah, you're getting old, you know, and things begin to hurt a bit. That kind of acceptance would be probably better. But it's very hard for me to let that go. And anything I do, I over-identify with it and, you know, make it bigger than it is, really. I just feel I'm just becoming more and more aware of this as my meditation goes, you know. Mm-hmm. And I'm kind of left thinking, wow, well, then maybe there is nothing important then. What if I don't think, oh, well, you know, what's the point of doing anything to exercise my will? What's the point of all these things? And it's like I'm left with nothing. It's like I'm going to vanish or something, you know. Mm-hmm. I'll disappear because there's nothing left. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll help you. So as you're learning these teachings, there's this shift in perspective that starts to slowly occur, and you start shifting your perspective from the way that we used to think when the mind is what we call unawakened. But as you're starting to wake up, which means you're cultivating wisdom, moving to this enlightened mental state, you change your perspective about many things in life as you look around the world. So when the mind's holding on, when it's craving, when it's desiring, it's wanting, in your example, this physical body to be permanently healthy, right? It's holding on. It does every little ache and pain. It moans and groans. The mind's craving for this body to be permanently healthy. And when you start letting that go and you realize that this body can't be permanently healthy, it's impossible for it. Even when you're enlightened, you're going to experience sickness, right? That it's not possible for this being to experience permanent health. So when you start letting go of this craving, realizing that this body can't be permanently healthy, the mind will tend to swing to this other side, where now the mind starts to become indifferent, where it's like, well, what's the point of it all? Why should I even exercise? Why should I even eat healthy? Because, this body's impermanent anyway, so why even do that? So the mind swings to this other side, and you can't experience peace and joy there either, because you're not making wise decisions. So you need to bring the mind to the middle, but the mind doesn't know how to do that. It doesn't know how to let go of craving and then just come right to the middle. It's going to overshoot that middle. And it's going to go to this indifference, not just with the health of the body, but with many different things in your life, where maybe if you had a bunch of stuff when you were in London and you had, an apartment, you had lots of possessions and all different kinds of things. If you say you've been letting those things go, your mind might have swung all the way to the other side where you're like next to nothing and you have very minimal material possessions, right? Because the mind doesn't just come to the middle. But you got to be able to come to the middle where you realize that you can make wise decisions about the health of this body, whether that's exercising or eating well or visiting doctors or whatever it is that you choose to do. And you can be peaceful and you can be joyful there because it's wise to take care of this body, not as a craving desire, not as a want, as an expectation, which means the longing, the yearning, the chasing, the craving, wanting it to be permanent. Not that, but also not this indifference where you could care less what happens to this physical body, because either side, there's not going to be peace. But when you come to the middle where it's like, okay, well, there's this body, need to take care of it. Let me bathe it. Let me brush my teeth. Let me, eat some decent food. Let me go get a little bit of exercise here and there, whatever you end up doing. Let me go for maybe a checkup here and there. And this is wise for the body. But you do that without craving, desire, attachment, and without indifference, just as a wise decision, because you know it's wise to take care of this body. And then the identity part, where you're talking about identifying with yoga and things like this is part of that personal existence view that you've heard me teach about, where you need to realize non-self, that you realize that none of these things are you, right? Like, I am a Brit, or I am a yoga student, or I am even kind, I am this, I am that, I am Buddhist, I am a Buddhist teacher, right? All this I am, this identity, if you allow the mind to hold on to it, when you're getting what you want related to that, you'll get those pleasant feelings. But when you don't get what you want, you're going to get those painful feelings. So you've heard me share before, say you have this identity that I am a yoga student. And now you're at a dinner table at a restaurant, and 2 tables over, somebody's disparaging yoga students, talking really negatively about yoga students. Well, if you identify with that's who you are as a person, you'll be angry, you'll be frustrated, you'll be agitated or annoyed in that situation because they're talking about me. But what the Buddha is teaching you is there is no you. There is a body, there is a mind, they've come together for this existence, but it's holding on to this, identifying with it as who you are, that's going to cause the mind to be shaken up in these kind of examples, in these situations. So while you might choose to do yoga and you think that's a wise choice to maintain your health, don't identify with that as who you are as a person, that's just an activity that you're choosing to do right now. And it's not permanent. So that's why if you identify with it as who you are as a person, when you can't do it anymore, you'll be frustrated, you'll be annoyed. So you're interested in realizing, okay, I'm choosing to do yoga. This is a good activity. It's good for my health, but this doesn't define who I am as a person.
Yes, thanks. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions you guys have? Anything you would like to talk about? So these classes are for you guys, right? Whatever you guys would like to ask about. Sometimes people ask all kinds of questions. Maybe you're seeing things in Thailand at different temples, or reading things on books, seeing things on TV. Anything that you guys have questions about, you're welcome to ask questions. If not, I'll just go ahead and end class. But if you guys have questions, I'd like to be sure there's enough space for that. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions. So what I'm going to do then is just end class here. On Wednesdays, I just open it up to anything you guys would like to ask about. On Sundays, I spend time teaching you guys based on this book, going chapter by chapter. I even teach on Saturdays as well. And then this particular Saturday at 1 p.m. to 4 p.m., I'm going to be teaching what's called the Introduction to the Teachings of the Buddha. It's a 3-hour course where you can come in and you can learn the very beginning teachings of the Buddha, where I'm going to help you to get an introduction of the teachings of the Buddha. And then I'm going to share with you his very first teaching, which you need in order to get on the path to enlightenment. So that's this Saturday from 1 to 4. And all these classes, courses, and retreats are available at no cost. And then next week, starting on Monday, I'm going to teach a 5-day course, which is called The Foundation in the Path to Enlightenment, where you're going to learn all the foundational teachings to really get on the path to enlightenment. And all these courses, they're taught here. They're also live streamed. So if you're somewhere else and you would like to tune in, you can come in through Zoom, you can come in through YouTube or Facebook. And then even if you can't attend live, you can watch the recording at your own pace, right? On Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, whenever you'd like to watch, you can watch those because they're recorded on our Facebook page and on our YouTube channel as well. So thank you guys for joining. Thank you for your questions. As you need help, feel free to reach out. I'm here to help you. And perhaps we'll see you guys in a future class. Be well. Have a lovely rest of your day. Sawadee krap. Sawadee krap.
you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.